Folks, welcome back to another episode of Mayhem in the Midsouth. Today's episode, Elected to Murder. Folks, our story's gonna center around Dekalb County, Georgia. Now, the population of the county back around the late 1990s, early 2000s was a little over 600,000 people. Now, this county sits there on the east side of Atlanta. Now, Dekalb County had a police department, and they handled all the law enforcement activities in the county. Now, the sheriff's office, they were just in charge of the jail and the courts, which is usually pretty standard for most counties in the country. Now, the suspect in this event, he had been a homicide investigator in Atlanta for quite a long time. In fact, he worked the Atlanta child murders case. Now, he was elected sheriff of Dekalb County in 1996. He was the first black sheriff the county had ever had. Now, unfortunately, seemed to be some issues with his leadership within the sheriff's department. Allegations of corruption and nepotism and on and on and on. Now, in 2000, a captain with the DeKalb County Police Department, Durwood Brown, he decided he was going to run for sheriff of DeKalb County. Now, his platform was centered around cleaning up the corruption within the sheriff's department. Now, evidently, Captain Brown, his message must have resonated with the population because he won the election almost 2-1, which tells you evidently people in the county were ready for a change. Now, one of the things that Sheriff-elect Brown did was he sent out termination letters to 38 sheriff's employees. Now, 2 of the employees that received these letters were later on going to be suspects in Sheriff Brown's murder. Now, there were some people close to Sheriff Brown that said, listen, don't send out any letters and tell people you're going to fire them. Just wait and get in office and fire them like most sheriffs do. But now, Sheriff Brown said he didn't think that was right. He said, you need to give these people a chance to go find them another job. And if you just come in there and fire them without any notice, then kind of puts them in a bad way. So I have to admire Sheriff Brown for wanting to do the right thing. Now, in August of 2000, our suspect, who's very upset that he lost the election, he met with a bonds person who he'd been seeing on the side. Now, according to her testimony later, she said that the suspect told her that Brown was never going to be sheriff. He also told her that there would be a special election that would be held in January, and the suspect said, and I'm going to be re-elected sheriff. Now, while the suspect is telling this to this female, he takes his hand and forms it in the shape of a gun, puts it up to his temple, and pulls a simulated trigger on his handgun. Now, the suspect also told the DeKalb County chief deputy, which, of course, the chief deputy now, that's always the right-hand man of the sheriff. He told him, he said that Brown's never going to assume office. And he went on to tell him that an interim sheriff is going to be appointed, and then there's going to be a special election, and I'm going to get reelected. So now the suspect, he calls a fella over to his house. We're going to call him PC. Now, PC had been an employee of the suspect's private security firm, and he was a hero worshiper of the suspect. Now, the suspect had also hired PC to work in the Internal Affairs Division of the DeKalb County Sheriff's Department. Now, during this little meeting at the suspect's house, Suspect hands a piece of paper over to the PC. PC looks at it, and according to him, all the message said was, "Killed Derwin Brown." Now later on, when PC's testifying in court against the suspect, he's going to say after he looked at the note, suspect took it back away from him, and then he ate it. Ate the note. Now, PC told the suspect, "Hey, look, I can't do this by myself." So the suspect told him, "Well, go get some help. In fact, go on and use some of those security guards that used to work for me." So that's what PC did. He went out, he got MW, DR, and PS. And he met with those three, and he told them, he said, "Suspect wants me to use y'all, and we're going to kill Sheriff Brown." Now, they all said they were in on it. Now, supposedly the suspect had promised them, he said, "Look, when I get the position of sheriff back, I'm going to give every one of y'all a position within the sheriff's department, whatever you want." Now, he specifically told PC, he said, "You know what, I'm gonna fast track you through the sheriff's department. In fact, I'm going to put you in charge of Community Relations Division." So now PC and his little hoodlum gang, they start conducting surveillance on Sheriff Brown's house and his activities and movements. Now PS, he furnishes the weapon, and it was a Tech 9 semi-automatic handgun, and it had been modified with a homemade silencer. Now they decided that PW was going to be the shooter. So now 3 months have gone by, and they're meeting over there near Sheriff Brown's house to conduct surveillance and figure out the best spots to set up and wait for their opportunity to kill Sheriff Brown. Now in one case, PC had a sheriff's vehicle. He had it parked at an elementary school near Sheriff Brown's house. Now, the Dekalb County police had driven by there several occasions, and they noticed that sheriff's vehicle parked over there in that school parking lot. So they're over there looking at the car, and they see old PC show up there. So now they're wanting to know what he's doing, and they want to see his ID. So they're being good police. Now, PC did not have any identification, but he told them he was working a special assignment for the Dekalb County Sheriff. But now him not having any kind of Sheriff's Department ID, that kind of put the police on alert. So he says, "Well, just wait a minute, I'll make a phone call." So he calls the suspect, who of course is still the sheriff because the inauguration day has not come. So he gets him on the phone, and then he hands the phone to one of the officers, and the suspect tells him, yep, I'm the sheriff. And yeah, that fella you got there, he's working undercover surveillance for me, for the sheriff's department. So the police let him go. But now obviously that little event there is going to come back to haunt the suspect, because that's just going to be further corroboration of what co-defendants are going to say in court. All right, so now it's December 15th, 2000. And it's not going to be too much longer. Sheriff Brown's going to officially be Sheriff Brown. He's no longer going to be sheriff-elect. So the suspect tells PC, he says, "Look, you get your boys, you better get over there. I need him killed tonight." So PC and his band of hooligans, they head over towards Sheriff Brown's house. Now they've got vehicles parked over in a wooded area near Sheriff Brown's house, and they've got the house under surveillance. Now PS, he stays with the car, and the other ones get out and move about around the house. So now Sheriff Brown, he Comes home, pulls into the driveway. Now his wife's inside and family and some friends are waiting on him to get home. So now Sheriff Brown, he gets out of his car, he's walking up the driveway, and then he's shot multiple times. In fact, the ME would later say he was hit 12 times. He goes down and he's dead right there on the driveway. Now his wife, who was inside the house, she heard the shots. First thing she thought was fireworks, but she called 911. And she said, told them, she goes, I think there's shots outside next door to me. She didn't realize it was in her driveway. Now she goes out the front door to look. She still got 911 on the phone, and then she sees her husband down. So now the investigation begins as to who would want to kill Sheriff Brown. Now the 4 miscreants that had committed the murder, they drove back to PC's house. They took the murder weapon apart. Now PS, he tossed the parts of the pistol in a drain in Gwinnett County. Now, the suspect had already been under investigation by a grand jury for corruption and excessive force complaints at the jail, etc., etc. Well, now the investigation really was cranking up, because now you got a murder investigation to go along with the grand jury's investigation. Now, PC's later going to get arrested on an unrelated charge. I believe it was a shooting he was involved in. Now, after he's been in jail for a little while, a month or two, he decides he wants to cut a deal, because now he's got one shooting he's involved in, and he's thinking, well, you know what, I better go and tell him about that murder. That'll help me. So he goes to the prosecutor's office, and he names the suspect as the mastermind behind Sheriff Brown's killing. Now, later on, PS is going to get snatched up, and he's going to talk. So now you got 2 co-defendants that are going to talk. Now, PS actually takes the police to the murder weapon. They recover that. Now, the suspect gets hammered with a 53-page indictment. It includes murder and corruption charges of all sorts. Now, during the trial, they go over all the stuff the suspect had been doing. He had Sheriff's Department people chauffeuring his family around, going on vacation with them, going to other jurisdictions to repair vehicles that belonged to his kids. He even had Sheriff's Department employees working in his security firm when they were actually on the clock with the Sheriff's Department. And then they got to the part about the murder, because they did the murder part of the trial at the end. Now, in July 2002, the suspect is convicted. Found him guilty of malice murder, violation of Georgia's RICO Act, and violation of oath by public officer, and theft by taking in violation of duties as a public officer. Now, he got life in prison for all that. Pretty sad case.